All right, listen, I think let's start with the normal. There's some people who hadn't watched previous episodes, so you'll have to introduce yourself again, just quickly a background, who you are, and we'll go around the table.
So my name is Carien. I'm a psychologist here in Johannesburg, and I don't know that much about AI and tech, but a little bit more about psychology, I guess.
So, Wilfred?
Wilfred Greyling. I'm a software architect, systems architect. I am currently framed as that very founder that I might be talking about. So it's an interesting journey. I've been through the loop a few times, and let's see what happens this round. So this is an interesting conversation to have. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. I'm Lurinda Maree. I'm an industrial psychologist, applied theatre specialist, and I work with system psychodynamics. So in the system and figuring out what's actually going on under the surface.
Amazing.
So
and it's the conversation, right? That is the idea of the First Principles podcast. It's to speak to executives and not just in corporate, but mid-size customers as well, businesses in South Africa, about that play-off between systems and people. And so you guys are a great balance for us for today. Wilfred, the reason I asked you to come on very short notice, and thanks for that, is you've been watching businesses from the outside mostly as a systems architect, looking into businesses, smaller, medium, corporates, banks, for how long now?
Do we have to disclose that?
Yes, please.
I would say, okay, well, I think we need to reframe it maybe a little bit, because I always had my own businesses. And in there, you sort of learn interesting things of what to do and what not to do, but the hardest possible way, because we, as business owners, you can't hear or see anything that anybody else tells you, because you must know. You are clever and you understand and you've got your plan, and don't come and tell me what to do. So I've been that guy, and I am that guy, and I'm trying to not be that guy. So I've always been inside the business, trying to make it work as best as I can. And I've spent some time, thanks to you actually, to look at businesses from the outside as an architect and see how they operate. And that was 6 years or so that made sense. But the majority of time I was on the other side of the fence. So I'm enjoying the dynamic of seeing both sides of the story in a way, and trying to see how I can learn and how I can help other people to also cross that divide, because it feels like that.
Yeah.
As a founder, where you can't see. You can't see where you must go, even though you think you know where you must go. Anyway, so I don't even. Did that answer your question?
It does. Well, there's a follow-up question on that. Is at which point does the founder become the risk? Because when you are, let's take your position as a systems architect helping a business implement systems. Number one, why do they want to implement systems? And is it because of this risk, this founder's risk? Just talk to us a little bit about that.
I would say it's got multiple angles. When you have a business, and this is for me, I'm talking from my angle, and I'm going to get to the architect side in a minute. I just want to frame it from the side that I'm feeling at the moment. So I'm sitting in a new business now where we're building up a thing. And I can feel it. I can feel that I'm resisting those processes, and you become part of the workflow essentially, and that is such a huge risk. But in the start, you have to do that, because if you are not in the workflow, then nothing happens and nothing moves. So it's that fine balance of knowing when you switch out to the next layer of things. So when you look at it from an architect perspective, is to try and identify what phase the business is in. Like where are they? How far have they gone? Which things have they established? And there's a very other interesting conversation that I'm dying to hear, where you see the things that you can't see. But where are they, and what has been tied down, and what just flows as they think is a natural flow, which starts establishing those issues where you become part of the workflow as a founder. And I think that's the risk that develops over time, and the mechanism of how you break out of that without feeling like you're losing control, without feeling like you letting go of your business, so that there's you always hear that you have to let go as a founder, but it's not true that you have to let go. You can only let go if there's something else that carries the thing. So I can let you do a thing. If you were working with me, I could let you do a thing on your own without having to approve it, only if there is a foundational layer underneath that supports these things. And that's where the systems come into the process, is to make sure that when you let go as the founder, that thing lands nicely and solidly, and it can carry on. And there are not just you as the founder looking at it saying, I have to see that this thing goes the right way, but other people can also visibly see that the thing is following the right path. That's where the systems get it through, but it's also the place where the founder struggles to let that go, because those things are often not in place.
What I mentioned earlier, just before we got started, is the idea or the concept. When I was reading through the notes again this morning, my thing that I highlighted here was freedom is love. Because you learn in your personal life that if you in your home or in a relationship, if you try and control it, that's not love. Love is freedom, and that freedom could be that you choose against me, but I should give you that freedom. So, because in the home we are, but we are the same people in this business. And I'm just wondering, on your side, the invisible architecture, because that's really what drives most of these businesses or organizations. You mentioned emotional contracts. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I mean, your focus, I know, and that's the role I want you to play, is more on the system side. I want you to balance that with these emotional contracts and the invisible architecture. How does that relate into that founder's risk?
As I was listening to you speak, I was thinking about the fact that there's the system psychodynamic lens incorporates boundaries, authority, role, and task. And thinking through how you were talking a lot about how do I redefine my boundary all the time and play my role all the time. And how do we make that visible and conscious so that people can know what's the ask? And I think that's the biggest thing, is people assume they know what the ask is, but they're not really talking about what the ask is, because it's sometimes painful, or there's the risk in or threat in, so they just work on the assumptions.
Just an example.
So let's say the situation you just described. You're at that point where you know you need to get out more out of the operations into the strategic and allow the workflow to go on their own. You know that, and it exists in your mind, so we call it organization in the mind. It's there. They have another organization in their minds where you are now part of this. So separating would mean loss, so they don't want to talk about it. Although there might be a known unknown, they might know that, in the unconscious, you actually already know that you're going to separate at some time, but they don't want to deal with it. You know you need to go away, but you might also be very scared that they're not going to be okay without you. So there's threat on both sides. But nobody's talking about it. You're trying to strategically figure out, when do I move? What's the best time? Because the moment that we bring this to the surface and we're talking about it, it's going to be painful. And to your point, then there's the freedom of saying, but I don't want you to go, I still need you, and there might be conflict. So that's the other part of the B.A.R.T's C and I, is conflict and identity. So we have an identity now, and you're going to disrupt that, and I don't want that. So that's actually what's going on. But how do you put that in words if there's no words? There's no language for that. So we need to create the language.
So what I'm hearing is, this is a lot of customers who's, when you talk about a founder in a business, some founders last longer in the flow than others. Some are maybe a second round in business. Now I need to exit early.
Yes.
Right? And then it's less painful. But some guys stay the CEO while there's thousands of people working there. And he's in the flow, and all of a sudden some business coach tells him, hey, and all his relationships are going to waste. You need to exit. And then he's thinking, okay, well, for me to exit, I need to implement my flow thoughts into systems so that some alter ego of me can still exist via these systems. Is that what you think happened?
Yeah. So on the second and third rounds, I think you start doing it earlier on, where you now know that moment is coming. Yeah. There's also, I enjoy Daniel Priestley. His analogy of where you're in the wilderness where you're trying to work out what your business is, and then you live inside a what is the thing called? I can't remember now. Can you believe it? Anyway, so this is your comfort zone where you've got a business that makes a lot of money, and the people can all talk to each other, and information flows freely, and it is comfortable to work inside that space. Then when you say, I'm leaving this business and I'm moving to a high performance business, you cross a desert. And I think you've spoken about a desert as well. That journey where you leave your comfort business and you move to a high performance business and you're traveling through the desert, that's where you die. I've died there, I think 1.5 times. I have seen other businesses die in the desert. And it's so sad because you've got everything going on and it's all working. But because you're not changing the way you're thinking about how you're supposed to put those systems in place, which sort of captures not who you are, but what the business is actually about. You shouldn't be so pivotal that it can't be put into a system. And anyway, so the point is that going through the desert is the hardest part. And this is the piece that you want to get right. So there are lots of phases to this. Obviously, it's not just you just arrive at the end. You have to go through a journey. Now, a business exists it offers a special thing. We make these cups and they are black and they are special because of this. And that's the thing that you focus on as a founder. So how do we make these cups better? But behind that or underneath that lives the entirety of business that is supposed to exist. In addition to the cup that lives on top of that, that is the piece that you do. Now, as a founder or as a business, if you're looking only at how you deal with the cup, you forget about all the other bits. But they're like the things that must be there. And we hate them because they are boring, and it's accounting, and it's knowledge management, it's HR, it's all those things that we don't want to do. But if you don't do them, or at least acknowledge that you are not doing them, and that is part of the process, once you've got that solid foundation, then go climb your mountain when at least you've seen these bits, and you know that if I ask something of someone, if I'm the leader, I should trust that they can do their job. Or if they need to do their thing that they need to do, they shouldn't have to come to me or to you or anybody else to say, how do I do my work? The work must be visible. You must be able to see that. And in recent times, that's been one of the hardest problems, is to see where the work is. And that makes people feel like I'm not doing my job because I can't find the work. But to find the work, you need to understand what goes on in the shadows, and you don't know that game, and you don't want to play that game, but it affects your surroundings. So anyway, so you want to make sure that when you build a business, you care about those boring things, and if you can systemize it, then you don't have to worry about it. It is there, it is handled, and you can focus on the cup that you want to make better.
I think that's an interesting question. Is it a fallacy to think that you can systematize many of those things?
I think to a certain extent, yes.
Because what I see is you'll get a business requirement doc and you read through it and you're like, that looks like somebody's job once.
Yes.
And now they want to put that into a system where somebody needs to capture something or have a multi-select, Does that work? Because 90% of system implementations fail. There's no adoption. Is it because we are trying to put stuff flows into systems that should really be done by
People.
people.
Yeah, correct. And I mean, I know this is not an AI discussion, but this is part of the AI problem also, because it all falls that way, and somehow we want to take the human out of it, and that's not the correct approach. We need to amplify the people so that they are stronger and they're not sidelined in the whole process. That's tricky.
What are you hearing?
Stuff.
What are you hearing?
I'm slow. I'm still coming to because can I just go one step back? Because the first thing I want to ask you is, I like this. You go into the desert. You're talking about smaller businesses, and then you call it
lifestyle
businesses. How do you know that you're there? Like, it's time now.
You have to consciously understand it. So you have to know. And I had a client just the other day, and I asked him, "Do you want to be a lifestyle business where it's a smaller team and you guys are tightly knit, or do you want to be a high performance business where it's?" Of course, I want to be a high performance business, but that is just I think he said that because that's an expectation of what business should be. Is that you should always be working to be this big operation with these millions of people and high turnover, but the reward is not always there. You can have a lifestyle business where you are way more happy and you can go home to your family and your kids and not be dead and not have to think about work every 5 seconds of what threat is coming in and whatever. And that's a lifestyle business, and there's value in that. And to move to the next layer, you have to say, guys, we are going into the desert. And this is going to be the journey, and this is what I think it is. Can I have your input? How do we get through this thing? And you work together with your people to get to the other side, and everybody must know that you're leaving this space where we spoke to each other around the lunch meeting spot, and everybody had context, to a place where we need to distribute the context in a different way.
Yeah.
Because we are leaving this happy space. But we are leaving this happy space because we understand that this other thing we're going to is the thing we want.
Yeah.
So don't go to the other thing if that's not what you want either. So that's why I say it's a conscious decision.
But what I'm hearing is the overlap between the two of you, saying, if as the founder leader, I realize, I don't know if it's always voluntary, but you are growing to the point of changing from a lifestyle business to something bigger, that you actually sit the people down and you say to everyone, that's what you said, bringing it to consciousness.
I just want to stop. So my experience is that happens most often when a leader or a executive burns out. It's normally in a state of burnout that triggers that.
Sure.
Walking into the desert phase.
Yeah, like, listen, I'm burnt out. I can't deal with this amount of people. This lifestyle business now become too big. Is a person who's just actually in burnout or trying to process it, most people don't process properly, are they in a good state or a state to actually make that decision?
I think it would be really unfortunate. What you're trying to say is, let's avoid that. Let's not wait till burnout.
Yeah.
And when we make this decision,
you can't have children to save your marriage.
No.
It's like that kind of a thing. And so you can't go through the desert to a high performance business because you burnt out. You need to deal with the issue first.
Yes.
And you need to stabilize that. And I think that is where systems are important. If you have to say, how can I fix this, is to say, what goes on in your head? Why is it heavy for you? Why is it that you are tired? It is because every decision comes to you, and because you carry all this weight.
Yeah.
You know, for example, if you want to speak to your leader, and that person is so busy that they can say that they can physically say to you, you've got 30 seconds to deliver your whatever it is you want to say to me.
Yes.
Then you must know the game is lost, because for your leader to have no time for you and an issue that you want to bring to the table indicates that that person is doing the wrong stuff. They are doing the work. They are the workflow. So they are so busy doing that they cannot care about the people that is in the business.
Yeah.
You can't go into the desert with that. You will just die.
Yeah.
And so you do.
Interesting.
Sure.
Lurinda, you mentioned that in every human interaction, there's two worlds. That's serious and the playful. I'm just wondering, if that happens, where you've got these guys, his business coach tells him, listen, you need to separate yourself from business, you need to now go into this desert, you need to give people 30 seconds or 15 minutes to interact with you. Do you lose some of that?
The playful.
Yeah. And the question is really, is that playfulness really there? Because in South Africa, my experience is when you sit in boardrooms or in meetings, there's very, very little of that.
Very little, yes. And I think that's, it is an effort to bring it to the party under any circumstances.
But why would you want to? Because I mean, there is humor. South Africans are.
Yeah.
We've got a very healthy, dry humor, sarcasm.
Most of us.
You call it dry humor when the people doesn't like your joke. It's actually sort of sarcasm or satire or whatever the case might be. But it's a critical part of.
I think it's critical.
Yes.
I think it's critical because you cannot be curious and judgmental on this at the same time. You need to choose. And I think and it's about the limbic system and the neocortex as well, or the prefrontal cortex. You can't live in your head the whole time. The moment you go into your body and you really just enjoy what's going on and you connect to your limbic system that holds all your emotional memories, the reason why you're doing what you're doing, and you get everybody in the company to do the same thing, then it's like an awakening. It's like a refreshment. And it can't be that all the time as well, But I think that somewhere, that's why everybody's talking about the vision is so important. Everybody must know where we're going. But actually the vision is the playful part of it. It's like, why are we doing this? It's like being home with your family around the dinner table and really just engaging with these people that are forming and shaping every day. And it's similar to a business. When do you do that? Where's the time for that? Are we being intentional about it? Because that playful part is what gets us through the difficult parts.
You have to weave it in all the time. It must be constant.
So my question is, if you said going through the desert has a lot of loss, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like part of that loss is when you leave the lifestyle business, that's actually what you lose. It's the only reason you would want to keep it is because you have that playfulness, right?
Yeah.
But if you're intentional about keeping your playfulness, then the loss isn't that hectic. Or not really?
Well,
does it contain a little bit of that lifestyle business culture?
I think that's probably, in my experience, the biggest fear that people have in that level 2-3 company maturity model transition is losing the family feel. Losing I'm handing you the paper so we can have a quick conversation about your child. Even when I did change management, that's the stuff people are really scared of. But the threats are 10% truth wrapped in 90% lie. And that's the problem, is that's what they think. That's the threat. We're going to lose this. But you are going to lose a lot of it, but you're not going to lose all of it. But we need to know, okay, that's your fear. Let's speak to that fear and say, okay, we are going to lose a lot of it, but what are we going to keep? And the William Bridges transition management says, celebrate the endings. If you don't celebrate the endings, then you enter the desert and you're still wishing you were in Egypt. That's not what you want to do. You want them to be like, oh, here I am. This is a creative space. We can become more here. Yeah. But it's making that intentional and conscious to everybody. But the fear is true, but it's not 100% true. So
it's funny because I was last night, the Kinderbible for my kids in the evening before they go to bed. And it's funny because last night I was reading to them specifically those first 3 months in the desert. And they run into a point where there's no water. Mm-hmm. Listen, it was actually better where we were. Can you please take us back there, which comes into this change management issue. It was actually a lot better in the previous state. Even though I was half burnt out, had to do everything, basically slaves. It's a safer space.
Yes.
Why do we do that? Because it makes sense to rather go back to what we know. What pushes you through the desert?
Well, according to the William Bridges, he was saying...
Let's explain William Bridges quickly before you continue.
He uses the Exodus story as Moses being the first transition manager in the history. And he says he had to take them out of a space where they didn't want to be, the burning platform as we know it. But they never celebrated the endings, and the expectations were never aligned with what's happening. They were thinking, oh yes, 2-week trip and we're in the beloved country. Nobody expected 40 years in the desert. So it's that expectation and celebrating endings. He calls it endings, neutral zone, new beginnings. And the neutral zone is the desert. And he said that Moses didn't anticipate all the hardships, but he was also burning out at one point, as you can recall, and then he decided to have the tribes. And that is called the transition monitoring teams. So that's why he's saying get a change agent network, get people to feedback, that kind of stuff, but make it creative. It can either be your dead space or your creative space, and it depends on how you deal with it. And then you get to the new beginnings. And again, you have to celebrate what's going to start and what's going to stop. And I think in my mind, if you dumb it down all the way, it's really about expectation management. What are we expecting of this phase? And as a leader, how am I going to treat it? Because as a leader, you give unconscious permission to everybody else about how they should deal with stuff. So if you're the one going like...
What you're saying, the difficult part of letting go is that you have to give the unconscious permission.
Yeah, it's scary.
Carien, if you had the opportunity to speak to a business owner, call it this founder, and you kind of helping him, saying, okay, well, your personal life has changed, you're married, the kids are getting older, you need to start giving more attention to your children because they're screaming at you, you're creating more childhood trauma. So I think you should talk to your partners and start getting into that desert space. What would you tell him to do personally?
I think that's actually what's been playing in my mind this whole time, because you touched on it briefly, and it's this idea that I don't know if that's true for everybody, but I think maybe especially for women, right? If you decide to start your own business, you're doing it with this ideal in mind that this is going to create some kind of work-life balance for you, or you are going to build something that you're going to be proud of, or something you want to do, or this is your vision. Right? And so it's like your little baby, and you don't want to let go of it. Because like you said earlier, you don't know what's going to happen you don't know if I release you into this adult world, what will happen to you. And I wonder if that's not linked to our identity. So I think as a founder, what you create and what you start is such a big part of who you are. And then if suddenly you have to give that over to somebody else, or you have to trust other people to run with that vision, and they don't see it exactly the way you do, then you lose that thing that kind of spoke into your identity. So you have to also redefine who you are now.
But your identity is in the eyes of others, right? You're managing that.
Yes, or in the eyes of yourself.
Mostly my experiences as business people are performance orientated. They want to be on the pedestal to some degree to show that I've been successful. Either showing it through lifestyle cars, some form of it. Is that identity? So let's say I was there. My identity was started this business, grew it to a point. That's me. So when somebody asks me, who are you? That's the story I tell. I create my identity by telling them the story of what I did. All of a sudden, I'm voluntary or involuntary, I have to let go of that identity. What do I do to retell that story and do, my new identity to myself and to others?
I think it's most probably one of the most difficult things for any one of us to ground identity in something more internal and not external. Maybe in our worth, in who we, and maybe like you're saying, I don't know, it's just a guess, but in celebrating what it was, and it's going to change, and that doesn't take anything away from what it was. It was good, and it's changing, and it's just that. I don't know. I can see you have an idea in your mind.
No, I don't.
No, I think it's like, why do you start a business? Like you and is it to have the car and the assets and the achievement? I mean, I think all these things are part of it, and they all form some aspect, and some will be bigger and some will be smaller. Sometimes if you make the cup, it's not about the cup at all, it's about the car. If you sell enough cups, that could be one angle that you're running your business on, and you just want the outcome. So that's a different kind of approach to business. It can't make the people lesser, but people must understand that, like people that work with you should understand that we're only making these cups so that I can have a big car. That will be a difficult sell, I think, to get everyone to be in on the game. But that happens a lot, and where the driver is unspoken. Like, you don't understand why are we doing this thing as an employee, because it somehow doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But you can't talk about it because, like, what are you going to say? Like, why the heck are we making these cups? It's like just terrible. We're destroying the environment and blah, 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 all that stuff. Obviously, you shouldn't be working there, but that's a different story. But why do you have the business? I've got a business, and I like to think that I'm thinking about it as helping other people see this process through. But, at the end of the day, when you think about it, you still have to live and, all the other things also. So there are parts of all these things. You can't just make it, I'm doing it for other people, because that's just nonsense. There's this blend of stuff going on. And I think if you can highlight the dark corners and somehow get your folks to be on the same page as you. And this is a difficult thing, and this is not system talking at all, because systems are crystallizing how you do a thing. That's all that does. And once you crystallize a process, then that's how you do the thing. So that's systems, and they need to mature over time. And you can't just crystallize the stuff and say, I've got systems, so my problem ends. You have to work with your people while we have people in business, which is also a different conversation.
Yeah.
And get it right and understand why you're doing the business, just to come back as to why we're doing this thing. And that drives your decisions. You decide your next, like, for example, why would you want to cross the desert? So I'm sitting in a lifestyle business. We're all happy. We sit at the braai every Friday, the 10 of us. We have a ball. We drink some beers or whatever it is that we do, and we talk to each other, and we're a family, and we make the money, and our customers are happy, and all of these things are cool. Then at some point you have to say, I want something else now, because that is the decision that you make. But you do it subconsciously, because maybe you're just chasing more customers. Maybe you're just bringing in more product that you want to develop. And those things are the things that push you into the desert without you knowing it. And that puts you over the line. And suddenly you've got too much going on. And that's when the decline starts. If you have not planned for it, if you have not put the things in place that, even if you just crystallized your old processes substantially, at least you've got something solid to work on top of. A thing that we do, I don't know if this is the place for that, but when we want to work with a customer, we try and say to them, let's first look at all these foundational things. Like, if you look at a business from the ground up, we've identified 41 domains, like billing, like HR, blah. There are 41 of these things that you have to do. And inside of these 41 domains, there are, I think for a advanced business, you're looking at about 1,500 things that you must do. So it's like a lot of stuff. And this is for a generic business. This is just a business out the box. This is not making cups specifically. This is just the business part that lies underneath this. There's like a lot of stuff that you need to do. So the idea is to try and find a way where we can look at a business, and before you build on top of the thing, is to just identify what is the thing that is there and what is missing. And then you can say, like, when you sit at the meeting, you have your general meeting, and nobody ever talks about marketing because you're not doing it. That's a bad place to be. If you can sit at the meeting and you can talk about marketing, even though you do it very crappy, at least you've got something that you can say, this is a gap that we need to fill. But if you just like pretend that thing doesn't exist, that is not a good place to be. And then if you take that shape and you go into the desert, prepare to die.
But what if you kind of, it's too late, like you accidentally didn't build that thing?
Yes, which happens all the time.
Okay. Right. And now you find yourself in the desert.
Yes.
Can you backtrack?
I think you can, but that is harder, because now you have to think about, okay, are we going to push through because we won't make it, or are we going to backtrack? And that is like there's now ego and like all kinds of things.
And I think, listen, there's where the identity comes in strong, right? So can you have a vulnerable conversation with your team and say, listen, I've made a mistake. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Can we redo this, please? Without upsetting customers and making the black cup
Let's talk about it.
process.
And you can't do that while you've got the shadows hanging all about the place. Then that is harder. So when we spoke earlier, I thought about it. It's like it's not systems versus people versus these things are all one big thing, and they fit together. And if any one of the parts are not well attended, that's you are just going to trip and fall. So they work in unison. It's a single solution for all of it. They all need to be there.
Yeah. Listen, how does theatre make all of this possible? Because that's an interesting thing. Or at least just tell me a little bit, because I haven't crossed it in any business I've done, except most business is theatre. But
Or a circus.
yeah.
So true.
But with your theatre background, how did you bring these two together?
So,
Industrial psychology and theatre.
yeah, so I did industrial theatre for the first 5 years of my career, which helped me to learn to discern the story of an organization. I think that's the training I got in retrospect.
What is industrial?
Industrial theatre is when you do a play for a company,
Okay.
but you have a very specific outcome. We've done it for values. If you change values, to explain why we're changing the values, what does it mean, that kind of stuff. Did road shows to all the different places. You use real actors, not role play. And and you try to make it as identifiable and as recognizable as possible. So people must think it's people from our company on stage. Yes. They need to walk like them, talk like them. We need to know the lingo. We need to know the stories. And then you see yourself in there. So it's once removed. You can really see what's playing out, why it's playing out. You see another world. For me, theatre is unothering the other. It is really...
It's what?
Unothering the other. So you have this idea of what management is doing and going through. But when you see it in a play, in a story, you see, but wait a minute, they are actually battling with this as much as we are.
The
and we didn't know that.
Thing.
You see the other world and the other. So that's one way of playing it out. And then you can do it with facilitation, where you actually talk with the audience and ask, what did you see? What was interesting? What do you think about this? And you can actually debrief a lot of assumptions. So it's clarifying those assumptions. But the thing I'm doing at the moment a lot is working with improv theatre and through a system psychodynamic lens, because then improv theatre has the same principles as any good team or any good system needs. It's like you need to be spontaneous, you need to think on your feet, you need to let go, you need to not worry about making mistakes. You can't make mistakes with improv. Don't know if you know that, but you just use whatever they give you and you go. So if you put people in an environment like that where they can just play, suddenly you see who's taking what roles, you see where there's boundary issues, you see where there's communication issues, and
That's the actual team that you facilitate that with. Yeah.
It dips into their unconscious dynamics immediately, and you have an immediate, real-time conversation about it. It's talking through the dynamic play that you just had. So then it's, again, once removed, there's a safety in the fact that you can talk about this and see yourself in relation to other. And you can see, oh, this guy actually, I saw a side of him. I've heard that so many times. I saw a side of this guy that I never knew existed. Yeah. Yes, because we don't show those sides to each other every day. But suddenly you have a different idea of the other. And you are confronted with yourself seeing one picture. You know that TED talk, The Danger of a Single Story? It's like that. Suddenly there's not just one story, and I can start to relate to other people in a different way. And I think that's, for me, the magic of it is, and it shows immediately where the issues are that's under the surface, but not in a confronting, threatening way, in a very, oh, wow, we should do this more, we should do that.
You should give us the magic recipe you use to get people into that state, to be willing to do it. Do you literally give them alcohol?
Everybody is always worried about that, and I've never had an issue with it. Yeah. Everybody's always concerned, no, but these people, they're not going to want it. They are CAs. I've done CAs, auctioneers, engineers,
They all play.
they're not going to want to do this. Love it, because we are wired to play. So they come, and it's think minute to win it. Don't think theatre. Don't think whose line is it anyway, because that's what people think. But it's minute to win it games. It's 2 to 3 minute games in pairs and groups. And we do about 15 in a 2-hour span. And you debrief everything from there. And it's just fun. It's so much fun. But then I also use Augusta Boyle stuff, which is actually designed to bring voice to things. So it works lovely. Image theatre, where you build an image of your present and then of your future state, and you do the transition. And when you do that, that works very well if a team lead and its team doesn't have the same idea. So suddenly you see the image the way he builds it, and you're like, but what am I doing there? Why did you put me there? And that opens up really good, very frank conversations. That needs to be facilitated much better in terms of just like much contained, because you want them to have the frank conversations without residue, without emotive sparks. So there, I think you need to really be skilled in how you approach that, but it works lovely.
Yeah, it's incredible, because in the last one we did with Sonia, she talked about that liminal space.
Yeah.
And if you talk systems, business, we are in this liminal space, because the old world, the cloud computing, flow management, all of that's it's still there, but it's not dead. And this new AI agentic world is in the future. It's there, but it's not really there yet. We're in this space. I'm just wondering, is it a good time now for people who's listening to this to just calm down and say, listen, this is a great time to review all of this? Because we're still making backups, and we're still doing it as best as we can, but we can't really do it in a new way, and we're not really doing it in the old way. We're somewhere in between. And most people I speak to in business feeling a little bit, and it's manifesting in anxiousness. It's not manifesting in a calm, centered, this is now what we're going to do. Do you experience that as well?
So what's going through my mind is that when I as a person have anxiety, then one of the ways that I can better regulate anxiety and overwhelm maybe even more is to have good language. So to know how to express exactly what I'm feeling. And I know that when you speak about the system, the unconscious system, it's almost saying that similar to me as a person who has an unconscious and conscious part, the company also has that. Maybe you can just explain that a little bit more. But I'm also hearing you say the same thing. The thing that will regulate the anxiety is language. And that's what you're essentially facilitating. And that's the thing that carries us maybe through the liminal space, is to have the actual words to say what is happening right here.
Exactly. Because you want to clarify the assumptions. But how do you do it if you don't know how to articulate it, don't know that it exists, and don't know how to create a common language where both of us are talking the same language? So yeah, I think theatre bridges those things to get to the language.
So when you speak about this company's subconscious, do you teach people the language, or how would you explain that thing even exists, that a company has a shadow or a...
I don't really. I play the games with them and then I show it to them. I think it's...
But to explain it here, in conceptually at least.
Yeah, if I do the contracting, I would explain it, yes. And then I would explain it as the iceberg model, which is the easiest way to explain that. You see the tip of the iceberg, that's the behaviors you see, that's the conflict we experience. But underneath we have the values, we have the beliefs, we have everything that drives an individual and this group to do things. But at the end of the day, the things you see, there's more to it. You need to stand back and say, what is actually going on here? That is the big question. What is actually going on when we feel our leader is not really leading us? Okay, why? No, because he doesn't pitch for meetings and he doesn't give me enough structure, and that's the things you hear. But then, okay, but why? Where's the boundary? Where's the authority? Is he not stepping into it? Are you as a team actually in an anxious response? We are trying to just be helpless and putting him in a messiah role And we all know the Messiah will get crucified. So is that what you're doing? So you have to analyze that with them. But if I explain it to them, you can't use that language, would be very freaky for them.
Yeah.
So I usually just say there's a lot that we don't see. So let's play and explore and see what comes up. And then we'll figure out why we aren't communicating. So I won't go into the detail in contracting at all. I would rather just get them to experience it and from there move on. And sometimes you don't even need those explanations because on some level, everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's a no.
I'm just wondering, if you had the opportunity to redo some implementations at some customers, technical implementations, do you think it would have been worth doing this in parallel? Because my experience is you get to a customer, they've either already written user experience or user stories, functional requirements, process flows, but I'm not never hearing any of this.
The customer arrives with, help me break my car window, please. And then that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Meantime, the question was, my keys are locked in my car. How do I get my keys out? So they've already solved the problem based on what they know, and they've arrived at this is the next best thing to do.
Yes.
But that is like arriving at the doctor saying, please cut off my big toe.
Yeah.
And he cuts it off. But meantime, you just needed a Rennie because you've got heartburn. It's like the right people must do the right work for your business. And that's the hardest thing for me as a founder. I resist that because I'm most clever. So, I know all the things. So don't come and tell me what. But this is the thing that we need to try and understand how we let it go and say, okay, there's someone that knows better and let me listen and assess. And I don't have to just accept it, but I can process these things and maybe some variant of it comes out and we just cut off maybe another toe. I don't know. But, but essentially, don't pre-diagnose because you think you know. Talk to others and understand the problem fully, and then you solve it.
But properly. I want to balance that with the reality that a friend of mine used to call it the not invented here fallacy.
Oh yeah.
Where now you do come in as the system implementation consulting people, and you say, okay, well, this is how we're going to break the window. And when you start asking them to do this repetition in the business using the system, you get pushback because they weren't part of the invention of that process of breaking the window.
And they were breaking it differently in a nicer way, or a way that they preferred.
Yeah. So you were talking about earlier, and I want to skip back, just go back a little bit, as you were talking about that heaviness feeling, where in the beginning business is pretty light. When does it get heavy? When does it feel burdensome? And that's also normally also one of the parts that trigger this journey.
I think it happens when, and I think we've discussed a little bit, when you add another customer and you add another customer and you add another thing into the mix and you add more people and then you make more money, but then there's more risk, and then maybe there's the straw that breaks the camel's back for sure, but you keep on piling these things on. And some of the things that happen, so you bring more customers on. We did the process manually. I approved the process. Now these things keep coming faster and faster. So my quality of work starts going down because I'm a bottleneck in this process. And that can go for founder or any individual person, doesn't matter. But as founders, you would tend to want to keep control of this thing because that's the human nature, I guess, because it's your baby. And you can't let your baby get hurt. But then you hurt your baby. The very thing you're trying to do is the thing that is causing the damage at the same time. So it builds up over time. And there comes a point where you feel this weight and you don't go home happy anymore. You go home worrying about how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to solve this problem? Blah, blah, blah. And then you start putting in systems yourself. You reach for all these things that you just put in place. Then you end up with a bunch of systems that don't talk to each other, and then it's like the next mess. So the things sort of grow on top of each other. I think it's a difficult game to play. Building a business in a structured way, understanding and seeing the things, being aware of you yourself are creating these shadow spaces. You say one thing, we are a open business, just come talk to me. That's another problem. It's just like, just ask me. Like, that should not exist. People should know what they have to do without having to ask. And they should understand the context of the problem from the system, not from having to go find 4 people to talk to see what is the next thing I need to do.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I say that it's not easy to do, but that is the objective, and that's what you work towards all the time. So it's a continuous process. It's not like we put in the system and now we're done. It's never like that. It's not like we spoke about this stuff and now we never talk about it again. Then you've achieved nothing. It has to be, it's like going to gym. Okay, I don't know why I brought that up. That was a bad example. But it's like going to gym. You have to go all the time. You don't get the gain from going once.
It's like brushing your teeth.
Correct. Okay, that's a better example. Thank you. Yeah. So that's what happens. So it builds up over time, and it's adding all the little bits and the little bits. So you think your business is growing. You think you're being a leader because you are giving advice to every person that asks you, but that is not leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership is when people know what they must do, and they know, and they're allowed to make decisions, and they're allowed to make mistakes. If you can't make mistakes, your business will not grow. People will not bring anything to the table if there's a penalty for every adventure you want to go on.
Listen, I want to spend 5 minutes on this. I've got a customer, quite a large customer. They've got millions of customers in South Africa. In their business, they've got about, 2,000-3,000 employees. And many of those employees and management people have got an AI tool, ChatGPT or something, that they actually ask these informal questions. How do I deal with my manager now? This is now becoming this extra person or actor. So everybody's saying we need to implement AI, but my experience is already implemented within those informal networks. And it's driving behavior because people are actually acting on what ChatGPT is telling them to say. Well, my manager's upset with me, or I didn't get an increase. What do I do? What do I say? And it gives you a nice point for point. And
it's always on your side.
It's always on your side. It starts with a compliment. So everybody's already, to a degree, implemented AI. How are we going to deal with that actor who you can't bring onto the stage?
Yeah.
Because they are starting to form part of this informal.
That's a very good question.
I've had a thought on that for business discussions, is to have that as a person at the table. When you have a meeting, you have that as a pseudo person contributing to the conversation. And if you've got someone that can prompt it to give the right pushback and all of that, maybe it can contribute and make the conversation more constructive and more direction without taking control, without being the one that says, well, the AI said, so it goes. It's not how it must be, but it puts input into the thing, and maybe it can, I don't know. That's the theory.
So it feels to me like it's a second round of Excel. Because a bunch of years ago, when you asked it, listen, do you have a system for this? No, we do it on Excel.
Yes.
Where's the Excel? I've got access to this Microsoft license, which is my own little Excel, where I input my stuff and I get a result, and I act on that. But it's not integrated into a larger flow.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, you can make it work for you in such an awesome way.
Yeah.
You can get that data and you can use it as a culture survey.
But isn't that exactly what used to happen with the smart guys who knew how to write, good queries on Excel? Got good results, got the ears of the boss, grew in the business.
But the boss can never know that you asked, how do I deal with my boss?
No, but if you can get that data and you know what people are asking in the company, it's telling you something about what's their fears and what are they experiencing. If you can have that data and you can speak to that and say, I see everybody's asking this, there's obviously a problem in this area.
Yeah.
How do I make that conscious and talk about it?
Yeah.
That'll be awesome, because then it's just another data point that you can use. Do you then want to get rid of it? I don't think so. That'll be awesome.
But I think the question you said, okay, what's behind it? Okay, so why do I want to use AI to analyze the business and how I should treat my boss and things like that. And it made me think about what you said earlier, when it becomes heavy, right? At some point, I recall you saying, I don't know if it was here or in something you wrote, that it's very difficult for a leader when it becomes heavy to shift their internalized vision, right? And I feel like when people are involving AI and trying to analyze their leader and asking questions about management, it's because they don't actually see what the leader sees. And that doesn't make the leader necessarily the right one or the one carrying the perfect vision, but it speaks to the gap, right?
The language.
The language too, but also the gap in, you said, what did you call it earlier? When there's only one story, right?
The danger of a single story, yeah.
And so I'm curious, when you help people through this desert and in this implementation phase, how do you get a leader to shift a little bit of their vision, so that the people don't actually need to go ask AI, how do I get my leader to see this?
I'm going to do politics quickly, but I think it's easier to open the Strait of Hormuz than to get that right. It's a very difficult process because every environment is different, every business is different, every person is different. Every process is essentially different. So there's no just we stamp it down. So some things you can do, like to make an invoice, is you make an invoice until you try and make an invoice, then that's not how we make invoices. It's this whole complicated story that actually happens. And that is what unfolds when you talk to a business, is it's all the layers that live inside of it. And that thing that you thought you could just quickly do, you can't do, because we actually need to query this and we need to do this and blah, blah, blah. So it is complicated. And you say to get leaders to do it, it's difficult because it's like me trying to tell Lochner to do something. What the heck? That's never going to happen. We can only have a conversation, and we can only, through long discourse, arrive at a point where we agree on a topic because we've went this way and we went that way, and then we've landed on this thing. So it's time. It's time and conversation. And if the leader is willing to have the conversation and not be blinkered, then you've got a chance. If that particular person does not want to see anything else, maybe you must move on. I don't know.
My experience is that, before I go into our last point, is that those blinkers are on because most of these people, those executives, when you chat to them, really, it's because 9 out of 10 times in their personal life, it's overwhelming. There's children, complications, or health issues, or their parents, whatever the case might be. And that's just a survival mechanism. Like, I can't look beyond this at the moment because I'll just get overwhelmed and have some form of panic attack or whatever the case might be. That's my experience.
Which is the precursor for that burnout.
Yeah. Because the cost of building a business
is high.
Especially in a business.
That's why the decision to go into the desert must be a conscious one. Because the cost is so extremely high, you can't just willy-nilly of a day start walking and not have planned the journey. And if you can somehow see that and understand that we are about to take this journey because we want a baby to save the marriage, don't do that. Let's do something else and bring you back and stabilize the space. And then you can take the journey, but don't take the journey for the sake of the journey. That's just a risky approach to taking the next steps. And this is specifically, obviously not the one, once you've taken the journey on the other side, that's a different story. But if you are this lifestyle business and you're having a good time, or you feel that you're not, going and growing is not the way. I've done that very successfully. I have grown from, I remember clearly the day we were in a 4,000 square meter factory, and the landlord changed the rules. He just said, no, now we do this, that, or the next thing. So we could then fight that thing, or we could find a new place to go stay. So then we start looking around. And now it's the question, and I was a youngster, so I mean, what do you know? We went into a factory that's 8,000 square meters. So with that, now you've got all the space, but also the rent goes up. And now because you have space, we must have people, we have more, it was not the right idea. I keep thinking about that and thinking, if we had taken the road the other way, which was says, let's go down to a 2,000 square meter factory. And I'm using the square meterage as a guide to the size of the business and the number of people and the complexity. If we had scaled back at that time, what would have been the outcome? Would I still be making kitchen cabinet doors to this day, happy, content, have a smaller team, and not have done, look, obviously I don't regret my journey because every journey is fantastic, but it's that decision. And sometimes it comes clear like that, like we are now choosing to go big, and then I ended up going home. So it doesn't always work out.
Listen, so to land the plane, I'm going to read it out, I think for all of us. If this conversation could surface one unspeakable truth, something they, or people who's listening, know but is not willing to admit, what would that be? What do you think that is?
Oh, I was actually thinking about it now.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what Carien said earlier in your question, what you said about identity. And I think the one thing, two parts, if you are the leader, when we do group relations conferences, we always say, are you willing to look at yourself, warts and all? I think that's something where you'll never lose. If you're a leader and you're willing to look into that mirror and say, what am I missing about myself? What am I not wanting to look at? That self-awareness and understanding what the loss is for you, what the threats are for you, I think that is the one thing to know, that you can't do any of these. You can't be in the lifestyle or move to the other one if you can't do that first and foremost and have peace with it. Like own it. Own who you are, what you're scared of, all that jazz. And then with the people, I was thinking about this thing you said about them asking this manager, and how can we use it and all that jazz. But what is the actual problem? The problem is people don't trust their own guts anymore. People don't connect with themselves anymore. So it's like a traumatized society you're working with. So you kind of have to also, as a leader, maybe instill that in them. If I can connect to myself, trust myself and what I say to you, there's the example. But can I also enable you to trust yourself and really be okay with bringing whatever you're bringing? So for me, that's something I don't think we always think about.
Thanks. Wilfred?
I'm just going to add on to what you said. I've experienced it on projects where you see people grow inside the project when you give them that permission to do a thing, and it is the most satisfying thing you can experience, is when somebody that were previously they've got all the capability and they've got all the things, but somehow they're blocked by something. And through the process, you can break those barriers down, and that person comes alive and they deliver something amazing, and eventually they are running the project. Oh man, then you've won. And that is so cool if you can get that right, where you can let people out. And I think it's that thing, is like allowing them to talk and allowing them to be themselves.
If I can give you some words, I think that the original topic was, if you really love them, you'll give them the freedom.
Yeah, correct.
Because it is a form of love.
Yeah. No, it's amazing, and it's almost like a parent seeing their children achieving, and it's so fulfilling and amazing. And that goes to, if you think about the founder just for a moment, if the founder could have that feeling of letting the people be themselves, and the stuff that they can bring to the table, you can't as an individual have all of those things in your mind. It's physically not possible. So you can't always be the pivotal point. And letting go, you don't let go because you're letting go of control. You're letting go because it needs to fall into a system that catches these things, and there's a way to see how it flows. Just to put my little architect thing in. Sorry.
Thank you. Carien?
I think my biggest takeaway, personally as well today, is that we all know the oh, you can't reach the promised land without going through the desert part, right? But I think we often feel like we fall into the desert and we just have to endure it long enough, then we'll reach the promised land, right?
So funny.
So I think my takeaway here was that don't fall into the desert. Acknowledge that you're at the edge and prepare. There are things you can prepare for. You can take water. You can have systems. You can face the warts and the difficulties. You can acknowledge it's going to be a tough journey. You can talk about how it's going to feel and what we're going to do. You don't have to just fall and survive because you might die.
You can choose.
Yeah.
My takeaway is, and I like the way you brought in the Moses Desert story, is that if you think you're going to go into this transition, building systems, changing people with your own energy and your own strength, it's not going to work. It has to be that collective community and that collective conscience. You can debate where it comes from or whatever the case might be, but that seems to be the only thing that does, if you do have to sit it through for 40 years, which at scale some businesses do, you've got that, you've got that lucky, you've got that underlying presence. Guys, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for just being here. Thanks for adding the value to the conversation, and we'll see you guys again.
So this was fun.